Madagascar is not simply an island, it is a world that broke away and evolved on its own. Tens of millions of years ago, this vast landmass drifted from Africa and never returned, carrying with it fragments of Earth that would follow a completely different path. Cut off by oceans and time, Madagascar became a place where nature rewrote its own rules, shaping landscapes and life forms found nowhere else on the planet. To explore Madagascar is to step into a living experiment of evolution and geology. Here, forests grow in unfamiliar forms, stone rises into shapes that seem carved by imagination rather than erosion, and rivers carve silent passages through ancient rock. Nearly 90% of the island's wildlife exists nowhere beyond its shores, but it is the land itself, the cliffs, canyons, mountains, and coastlines that gives Madagascar its unmistakable character. From towering baobab trees standing like timeless guardians on red earth, to razor-sharp stone forests and wind-sculpted deserts, every landscape feels deliberate, as if the planet paused here to create something entirely unique. Rainforests breathe with mist and sound, while highlands and volcanic lakes remain suspended in silence. Along the edges, the island slowly dissolves into turquoise seas, where coral reefs and remote islands mark the final boundary between land and ocean. Madagascar is often called the last untouched wilderness, not because it lacks history, but because its natural story remains visible and alive. This journey is not about speed or conquest. It is about discovery of places shaped by isolation, patience, and deep time. In Madagascar, the earth does not whisper its secrets. It reveals them openly to those willing to look closely and move slowly. Avenue of the Baobabs is one of Madagascar's most iconic and instantly recognizable landscapes, a place where nature transforms a simple dirt road into a corridor of living monuments. Located in the western part of the island, this striking avenue is lined on both sides by towering baobab trees, some reaching over 30 meters in height. Their massive, cylindrical trunks rise straight from the red earth, creating a scene that feels both ceremonial and timeless. These baobabs, known scientifically as Adansonia grandidieri, are among the oldest living organisms in Madagascar. Many are believed to be hundreds, even more than 1,000 years old, having survived countless cycles of drought, storms, and seasonal change. Their swollen trunks act as natural reservoirs, storing thousands of liters of water to endure the long, dry seasons that define the surrounding plains. This adaptation gives the trees their distinctive shape and reinforces their image as symbols of resilience. The baobab's bare, root-like branches stretch upward toward the sky, earning them the nickname upside-down trees. At sunrise and sunset, the rough bark glows in shades of gold and bronze, sharply contrasting with the deep red soil below. Light and shadow move slowly across their surfaces, making each tree appear sculpted rather than grown. Beyond its visual power, the Avenue of the Baobabs carries a profound sense of presence. The road feels less like a passage through land and more like a walk through time. Each tree stands as a silent witness to Madagascar's long natural history, turning this landscape into a living gallery where scale, age, and stillness define the experience. Chingi de Bemaraha is one of the most extreme and surreal landscapes in Madagascar, a stone forest shaped by millions of years of erosion and uplift. Located in the remote west of the island, This UNESCO World Heritage Site appears from above like a frozen ocean of jagged waves. Sharp limestone pinnacles rise densely from the ground, forming a maze of blades and spires that seem almost impossible to cross. The word Chingi comes from the local language, meaning where one cannot walk barefoot, a fitting description for terrain as sharp as broken glass. Rainwater, wind, and time have carved the limestone into razor-edged towers, deep fissures, and narrow canyons where sunlight barely reaches. Every surface cuts, every step demands caution. Here, the land itself enforces silence and precision, turning movement into a deliberate act. Within this hostile environment, the scale of the formations is overwhelming. Stone bridges span dizzying chasms, suspended walkways sway above deep abysses, and vertical walls plunge into darkness. Sound behaves differently in the Chingi, echoing softly through hidden corridors and collapsing quickly into stillness. The landscape feels less eroded than fractured, as if the earth was split and frozen mid-motion. Yet even in this fortress of stone, life persists. Vegetation clings to narrow ledges, and rare animals navigate the jagged terrain with ease, moving through gaps no human could follow. Chingi de Bemaraha is not a landscape meant to welcome visitors. It is a reminder of nature's precision and indifference, a place where geology dominates and where the Earth's raw architecture is exposed in its most unforgiving form. The Tsiribihina River flows through western Madagascar as a quiet artery of movement, shaping the land with patience rather than force. Rising from the mist-covered central highlands, the river travels westward toward the Mozambique Channel, tracing a slow and deliberate path across plains, cliffs, and open savannas. Unlike rivers defined by turbulence or spectacle, Tsiribihina reveals its character through stillness, offering a journey where silence becomes part of the landscape. As the river descends from higher ground, its surroundings gradually transform. Broad floodplains open on either side, interrupted by groves of tamarind and palm trees that follow the water's edge like natural markers. Further downstream, sandstone cliffs begin to appear, glowing in shades of copper, amber, and rust as sunlight moves across their surfaces. These cliffs rise gently rather than abruptly, framing the river without overpowering it. The water itself often appears bronze under the sun, its surface smooth enough to reflect sky and stone in soft, wavering patterns. Movement along the Tsiribihina feels unhurried. The river's current carries travelers slowly forward, allowing the details of the landscape to unfold naturally. Modern bridges span the river in graceful arcs, connecting distant banks with thin lines of steel. Yet much of the crossing still relies on traditional wooden ferries. These vessels drift calmly from shore to shore, guided by poles, balance, and an intimate understanding of the river's rhythm. Each crossing reinforces the sense that time here moves differently. Hidden along the Tsiribihina's course are moments of quiet discovery. Small waterfalls spill in narrow ribbons from red rock walls, cooling the air with fine mist. Shaded pools form beneath overhanging cliffs, their still waters inviting pause rather than passage. Sound is muted along the river, reduced to the gentle movement of water against stone and the distant call of birds. The Tsiribihina River is not a destination defined by landmarks, but by continuity. It binds together highlands and lowlands, stone and soil, motion and rest. Flowing steadily through Madagascar's western heart, the river becomes a moving corridor of calm, offering a rare experience of travel shaped not by urgency, but by attention. Red Chingi is one of Madagascar's most delicate and visually arresting landscapes, a place where the earth seems sculpted from pigment and air rather than stone. Located in the far north of the island, this extraordinary formation stands in sharp contrast to the razor-edged limestone of Chingi de Bemaraha. Here, the terrain is shaped from laterite, iron-rich clay, slowly molded by centuries of rainfall, wind, and erosion into a forest of fragile red spires. The result is a landscape that feels less carved and more breathed into existence. The Red Tsingy formations rise in dense clusters, forming narrow corridors and towering cones that resemble a natural cathedral. Each pillar is unique in shape and height, some tapering to fine points, others widening like fluted columns. The ground beneath them is soft and powdery, reinforcing the sense that this is a living, shifting environment rather than a fixed monument. Unlike stone landscapes that resist time, Red Tsingy openly displays its vulnerability, shaped by forces that continue to act upon it every season. Color is the defining element of this place. The deep red and burnt orange tones of the soil come from high iron content, which oxidizes when exposed to air. As sunlight moves across the formations, the entire landscape transforms. At dawn, the clay towers glow with warm golden hues. By midday, they burn with intense crimson, and at dusk, they fade into copper and rust, as if the land itself were slowly cooling. This constant play of light gives Red Tsingy an almost unreal quality, as though it exists halfway between geology and illusion. Walking through Red Tsingy demands care and restraint. The pillars are extremely fragile, and even slight contact can cause erosion. Silence dominates the space, broken only by the sound of wind moving through narrow passageways. There is no sense of vast horizon here. Instead, the experience is intimate and enclosed, drawing attention to texture, color, and stillness. Discovered only in the mid-20th century, Red Tsingy remains relatively unknown and lightly visited. It is not a landscape of grandeur or endurance, but of balance and impermanence. In Red Tsingy, erosion becomes an artist, reminding us that some of Madagascar's most powerful natural wonders are also the most fleeting masterpieces shaped by time and destined to change. The Andringitra Mountains rise from southern Madagascar like an ancient cathedral of stone, a highland world shaped by fire, uplift, and immense stretches of time. This rugged massif is formed primarily of granite, exposed and sculpted over hundreds of millions of years, creating a landscape that feels solemn, monumental, and deeply symbolic. Unlike sharp limestone formations or eroded deserts, Andringitra conveys permanence. Its massive rock faces, broad plateaus, and sheer cliffs give the impression of a land that has endured countless eras without yielding its core. The mountains unfold in dramatic layers. Wide valleys open suddenly into steep escarpments, while narrow gorges slice through solid granite, revealing the raw bones of the earth. Clouds drift low across the peaks, gathering like pilgrims before dissolving into mist, constantly reshaping visibility and scale. Light moves slowly here, sliding across rock surfaces and revealing subtle variations in color, pale gray, muted silver, and warm tones where the stone has weathered under sun and rain. At the heart of the range stands Pic Bobi, also known as Imari Volanitra, Madagascar's second highest peak at 2,658 meters. From its summit, the land stretches outward in every direction, descending into distant plains and valleys that appear almost unreal from such height. The climb itself is not defined by technical difficulty alone, but by exposure and atmosphere. Wind sweeps freely across open ridges, and silence dominates, broken only by the movement of clouds and the sound of breath against thin air. What gives Andringitra its cathedral-like presence is not only its scale, but its spatial rhythm. Granite walls rise like natural buttresses, valleys resemble long aisles, and plateaus open like sanctuaries suspended above the lowlands. The mountains do not overwhelm with chaos. Instead, they impose order and gravity, commanding stillness from those who enter. Despite its harsh appearance, the Andringitra Mountains hold remarkable ecological diversity. Alpine grasslands, rocky outcrops, and sheltered valleys create distinct microenvironments that support unique life adapted to altitude and cold. Yet, it is the landscape itself that leaves the deepest impression. Andringitra is not a place of spectacle alone. It is a place of presence. Standing among these ancient stones, one senses a dialogue between time and silence. The Andringitra Mountains are not merely a range to be crossed or conquered. They are a geological sanctuary, a house of stone, where the earth seems to pause, breathe, and remember its own beginnings. Isalo National Park stretches across southern Madagascar as a vast, sculpted landscape where stone, wind, and time have worked together for millions of years to create what feels like a living desert of rock. Unlike the barren emptiness often associated with deserts, Isalo is full of form and movement. Its terrain unfolds in waves of sandstone cliffs, deep canyons, narrow gorges, and wide-open savannas, each layer revealing a different chapter in the planet's unfinished story. The park's defining feature is its sandstone formations, shaped slowly by erosion rather than violent upheaval. Over immense spans of time, wind and water have carved the rock into arches, domes, pillars, and fortress-like walls. These formations rise in warm shades of gold, ochre, and rust, constantly changing color as the sun moves across the sky. In the early morning, the cliffs glow softly. By midday, they blaze under harsh light, and at sunset, they melt into deep amber and crimson, as if the land itself were on fire. Isalo's canyons create a powerful contrast between exposure and shelter. Narrow passages cut through solid rock, leading into shaded corridors where the air suddenly cools and sound becomes muted. Hidden within these folds of stone are unexpected pockets of life. Clear streams gather beneath cliffs, feeding small waterfalls and natural pools where palms and ferns thrive. These oases feel almost unreal against the surrounding dryness, offering moments of stillness in a landscape otherwise defined by openness and heat. Scale plays a central role in the experience of Isalo. Some rock faces rise like defensive walls, while others curve inward, forming natural amphitheaters. The horizon stretches wide across grasslands, broken only by distant formations, emphasizing isolation and distance. Despite this openness, the park never feels empty. The land seems alert, shaped and reshaped by forces that are slow but relentless. For the Malagasy people, Isalo is more than geology. It is a land of spirits, where ancestral presence is believed to linger among the cliffs and canyons. Simple stone markers and hidden tombs reinforce the idea that this landscape exists in dialogue with memory as much as with erosion. Isalo National Park is not a silent wasteland. It is a desert that breathes alive, with color, shadow, and subtle movement. Here, stone does not signify lifelessness, but endurance. Isalo stands as a reminder that even in the harshest environments, the Earth continues to shape beauty through patience, balance, and time. Antananarivo rises from Madagascar's central highlands as a city shaped by elevation, memory, and layered history. Built across 7 hills, the capital appears from a distance like a terraced mosaic of red earth and stone, its rooftops cascading down slopes into green valleys below. At more than 1,200 meters above sea level, Antananarivo occupies a natural vantage point where geography has long dictated power, settlement, and movement. The city's structure follows the contours of the hills rather than resisting them. Narrow roads twist upward in steep curves, linking neighborhoods stacked one above another. From almost any high point, the view opens outward rice paddies shimmering in the lowlands, clusters of houses clinging to hillsides, and distant ridgelines fading into haze. This vertical arrangement gives Antananarivo a sense of depth rather than sprawl, a city experienced in layers instead of grids. At the highest hill stands the Rover of Antananarivo, the former royal palace complex that once governed the island's central kingdom. Its stone walls and commanding position reflect a time when control of altitude meant control of territory. From here, the city spreads outward in all directions, blending royal history with later colonial architecture. French-era facades, balconies, and administrative buildings sit alongside traditional Malagasy houses, creating a visual dialogue between eras that never fully replaced one another. Antananarivo is a city of contrasts that coexist rather than compete. Colonial structures overlook rice fields, still cultivated by hand. Markets pulse with color and sound, just streets away from quiet residential hills. The scent of spices and fruit drifts through narrow lanes, while the rhythm of daily life echoes upward along stairways and slopes. Movement here is constant but unhurried, shaped by the terrain as much as by people. Near the city center lies Lake Anossi, a small, reflective body of water edged by jacaranda trees and anchored by a memorial island at its center. The lake acts as a visual pause, mirroring the sky and surrounding hills, especially at sunset when the city softens into gold and shadow. As evening falls, Antananarivo transforms. Lights scatter across the hills like embers, and the city seems to breathe outward rather than inward. From above, it feels less like a capital defined by size and more like a story told in elevation and rhythm. Antananarivo is not simply Madagascar's political heart. It is a living landscape where urban life unfolds in conversation with hills, history, and the enduring presence of the land itself. Lake Tritriva lies hidden within Madagascar's central highlands, a place where geology and legend seem inseparable. Formed inside the crater of an ancient volcano, the lake rests at an elevation of over 1,700 meters above sea level, surrounded by steep rocky slopes and dense green vegetation. From above, its surface appears almost unreal, a deep sapphire oval set into stone, as if a fragment of the sky had fallen into the earth and remained there. The volcanic origins of Lake Tritriva are evident in its perfectly enclosed shape. The crater walls rise sharply from the water's edge, creating a sense of isolation and containment. Unlike open lakes fed by visible rivers, Tritriva feels self-contained, drawing attention inward rather than outward. Its depth remains uncertain, adding to the lake's aura of mystery. The water is dark, still, and reflective, absorbing light rather than scattering it, which enhances the feeling that something unseen lies beneath the surface. What makes Lake Retriever especially intriguing is its unusual hydrological behavior. While nearby rivers and lakes swell during the rainy season, Retriever's water level mysteriously drops. During the dry season, when surrounding landscapes wither, the lake rises again. This inverse rhythm defies simple explanation and reinforces the idea that Retriever follows its own internal logic, governed by subterranean channels and volcanic structures hidden deep within the earth. The atmosphere around the lake is marked by silence. Wind moves gently through the trees, and sound seems to fade as it approaches the water. Two intertwined trees stand near the shore, their roots reaching toward the lake, forming a natural symbol often associated with local legends. According to Malagasy tradition, the lake is bound to a tragic love story, and many visitors instinctively lower their voices upon arrival, not out of fear, but respect. Walking the narrow trail that descends toward Lake Retriever feels like a gradual transition from landscape to story. Each step brings the water closer, and with it, a heightened awareness of stillness. There are no dramatic vistas here, no sweeping horizons. Instead, the experience is intimate and enclosed, focused on reflection rather than scale. Lake Retriever is not defined by movement or spectacle. Its power lies in restraint. Suspended between volcanic history and enduring myth, the lake stands as one of Madagascar's most contemplative natural landmarks, a place where geology holds silence and the land itself seems to listen. Gondar stands in the northern Ethiopian highlands as a rare architectural landmark in Africa, a city defined by stone fortresses rather than ancient ruins. Founded in the 17th century, Gondar served as Ethiopia's imperial capital for more than 50 years, marking a decisive shift from a mobile court to a permanent seat of power. At the center of this transformation lies Fasil Gebi, the royal enclosure that gives the city its enduring identity. Encircled by nearly a kilometer of thick defensive walls, Fasil Gebi covers an area of roughly 70,000 square meters. Within its boundaries rises a collection of castles, towers, banqueting halls, and chapels, all constructed from volcanic stone, bonded with traditional materials. The scale of the complex is striking, not only for its size, but for its rarity. This is the first true castle complex built in sub-Saharan Africa, designed and executed by African builders for an African emperor. The architecture of Gondar reflects a convergence of influences shaped by trade and diplomacy. Rounded towers, battlements, and arched windows blend Ethiopian design with Portuguese, Moorish, and later Jesuit elements, creating a style found nowhere else on the continent. One of the most distinctive structures, the domed egg castle, rises above the complex with its shell-like form and panoramic views across the city and toward Lake Tana in the distance. Time has softened the stone walls, but the overall structure remains remarkably intact. Standing within the royal enclosure, the sense of authority and permanence is unmistakable. Gondar is not a scattered archaeological site. It is a contained, deliberate expression of imperial ambition. More than a historical city, Gondar represents a moment when power, architecture, and landscape were fused into a single monumental vision, still standing on the Ethiopian plateau centuries later. Ranamafana National Park unfolds in southeastern Madagascar as a dense, breathing world of water, mist, and sound. Its name means hot water, a reference to the geothermal springs that emerge from the forest floor. But the true identity of Ranomafana lies in its rainforest, a living system shaped by constant humidity, rainfall, and warmth. Here, the air is never still. Moisture clings to skin, leaves glisten with condensation, and the forest feels less like a place you enter than one that slowly closes around you. The terrain of Ranomafana is defined by movement. Rivers wind through steep valleys, cutting channels through ancient rock and feeding countless streams and waterfalls. White water spills over dark stone, its sound echoing through the trees and blending with distant calls from the canopy. The forest floor is uneven and layered, covered in moss, roots, and fallen leaves that soften every step. Sunlight rarely reaches the ground directly, filtering instead through multiple layers of green and arriving as shifting patches of gold. What distinguishes Ranomafana from drier forests is its vertical intensity. Trees rise tall and straight, their trunks wrapped in vines and ferns. Bamboo thickets form dense walls, while orchids and epiphytes cling to branches high above. Mist drifts constantly through the understory, blurring depth and distance, making scale difficult to judge. The forest seems larger than it is, not because of size alone, but because visibility is always partial. Sound defines the experience of this place. Water murmurs everywhere, from distant rivers to unseen trickles beneath rocks. In the canopy, calls echo and fade, overlapping in patterns that feel deliberate rather than chaotic. At times, the forest grows unexpectedly quiet, as if pausing to listen, before sound gradually returns. This rhythm gives Ranomafana a sense of awareness, a feeling that the environment is responding rather than simply existing. The park's climate creates a near-constant cycle of growth and decay. Rain falls frequently, sometimes gently, sometimes with sudden force, reshaping paths and feeding the forest's endless regeneration. Everything here feels temporary yet continuous. Leaves fall, new ones emerge, streams shift their course, and the forest absorbs the change without interruption. Ranomafana National Park is not defined by open views or dramatic horizons. Its power lies in immersion. There is no single vantage point from which to understand it. Instead, the forest reveals itself gradually, step by step, through texture, sound, and atmosphere. In Ranomafana, the rainforest is not scenery. It is a presence warm, enveloping, and endlessly alive. Tis Isat, known as the Blue Nile Falls, marks one of the most dramatic transitions in Ethiopia's natural landscape, where the calm waters of the Blue Nile suddenly erupt into motion. Located just downstream from Lake Tana, the river plunges from the edge of the basalt plateau, transforming from a wide, steady flow into a powerful cascade that echoes across the surrounding gorge. The name Tis Isat translates to the Great Smoke, a reference to the clouds of mist that rise high into the air when the falls are at their strongest. Depending on the season, the falls drop between 37 and 52 meters, spreading across a width that can reach up to 400 meters during periods of peak flow. In the rainy months, the scene becomes thunderous, with massive volumes of water crashing into the gorge below and sending spray drifting far beyond the riverbanks. During drier seasons, the falls soften, revealing distinct rock layers and channels that expose the volcanic foundations of the plateau. The surrounding landscape bears clear signs of long-term erosion. Basalt cliffs frame the falls, their dark surfaces polished by centuries of water and sediment. Just downstream, the river narrows and accelerates, carving its way into deep canyons that will carry the Blue Nile across western Ethiopia. Nearby, a 17th-century stone bridge still spans the river, standing as a reminder of how long this crossing has shaped movement through the region. Tis Isat is not merely a waterfall, but a geological turning point. It marks the moment when the Blue Nile leaves the highlands behind and begins its descent into the wider African continent, carrying the energy and memory of Ethiopia's plateau with it. Nosy Iranja appears in the waters off northwestern Madagascar like a vision suspended between sea and sky, a pair of small islands joined by a ribbon of white sand that seems to exist only at the mercy of the tide. Often described as a twin paradise, Nosy Iranja is composed of two islets, Nosy Iranja B and Nosy Iranja Kelly, connected by a narrow sandbank that emerges when the ocean recedes and disappears again beneath. Rising water, this shifting connection gives the landscape a sense of impermanence, as though the islands are gently breathing with the sea. The defining feature of Nosy Iranja is its clarity. The water surrounding the islands is exceptionally shallow and transparent, revealing soft gradients of turquoise, pale green, and deep blue. From above, the sandbar forms a bright line cutting through the ocean, emphasizing the delicate balance between land and water. Walking across it feels unreal, with waves brushing both sides and the horizon stretching endlessly in every direction. There are no cliffs or dense interiors here, only openness, light, and reflection. The islands themselves are modest in scale, but rich in atmosphere. Palm trees lean toward the shore, their shadows stretching across powder-white sand. The terrain rises gently towards small wooded areas, offering limited elevation but wide views across the surrounding sea. The simplicity of the landscape is part of its power. There is little visual clutter, nothing to interrupt the rhythm of water, wind, and sky. Every element feels intentional, reduced to its purest form. Nosy Iranja's environment is shaped almost entirely by the ocean. Tides dictate access, movement, and perspective. At low tide, the sandbar invites slow passage between the islands. At high tide, the connection vanishes, restoring separation and reminding visitors that the sea is always in control. Light changes constantly, shifting the color of the water and sand within minutes. Under midday sun, the islands glow with brightness. At sunset, the sand takes on soft pink and gold tones as the ocean darkens around it. Despite its idyllic appearance, Nosy Iranja does not feel artificial or staged. There is a rawness beneath the beauty, an awareness that this balance is fragile. The absence of heavy development preserves a sense of quiet, allowing the sound of waves and wind to dominate. Human presence feels temporary here, secondary to the larger rhythms of nature. Nosy Iranja is not a destination defined by adventure or scale. It is defined by transition. Land becomes sea, separation becomes connection, and solidity gives way to movement. In this delicate exchange, Nosy Iranja embodies the essence of Madagascar's coastal wilderness, fleeting, luminous, and profoundly serene. Île Sainte-Marie, also known as Nosy Boraha, lies just off Madagascar's eastern coast, an elongated island where history, myth, and ocean converge. Separated from the mainland by a narrow channel, the island feels both close and remote, suspended between past and present. Coconut palms line its shores, lagoons shimmer in shifting shades of blue, and gentle waves roll in from the Indian Ocean, disguising a coastline once shaped by danger, secrecy, and legend. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Île Sainte-Marie became one of the most notorious pirate havens in the world. Its protected bays, hidden coves, and strategic position along major shipping routes made it an ideal refuge for pirates navigating between Africa, Asia, and Europe. Beneath the calm surface of today's beaches lie traces of this turbulent past, rusted anchors, buried in sand, weathered gravestones in the pirate cemetery, and fragments of shipwrecks slowly claimed by the sea. The island's landscape absorbed this history quietly, allowing nature to soften what was once a violent chapter. Geographically, Île Sainte-Marie is gentle rather than dramatic. The land rises only slightly above sea level, covered in lush, tropical vegetation, shaped by warm rain and ocean air. Narrow roads follow the island's length, weaving through fishing villages, clove trees, and small clearings that open suddenly onto the sea. The coastline alternates between calm lagoons and open stretches of water where waves break steadily against coral reefs. This rhythm of shelter and exposure defines the island's character. What truly transforms Île Sainte-Marie is its relationship with the ocean. From July to September, the waters surrounding the island become a stage for one of nature's most extraordinary events, the migration of humpback whales. These massive creatures travel thousands of kilometers from the icy waters of Antarctica to the warm, protected bays near Sainte Marie to mate and give birth. At dawn, their tails rise slowly from the sea. At dusk, their bodies arc gracefully against the fading light. The scale and calm of their movement contrast deeply with the stillness of the island, creating moments that feel almost ceremonial. Despite its layered history, Île Sainte-Marie remains remarkably peaceful. The air carries the scent of salt and ylang-ylang, and evenings settle gently as lanterns flicker along the shore. The island does not advertise its past loudly. Instead, it allows stories to linger beneath the surface, carried by waves and wind. Île Sainte-Marie is not defined by ruins or monuments, but by memory and motion. It is a place where legends dissolve into water, where the ocean reclaims history, and where Madagascar's eastern edge offers a rare balance between tranquility and timeless narrative. Diego Suarez, officially known as Antsiranana, lies at the northern tip of Madagascar, where the land opens dramatically into wind and water. The city is defined by its immense natural harbor, one of the largest and most protected bays in the world. From above, the bay unfolds like a vast blue amphitheater, encircled by headlands and volcanic formations that shelter the water from the open Indian Ocean. This geography has shaped Diego Suarez for centuries, making it both a gateway and a refuge at the very edge of the island. The bay itself is the heart of the landscape. Its waters shift between deep sapphire and luminous turquoise, calm and reflective, even when the open sea beyond grows restless. Ships move quietly across its surface, appearing small against the scale of the harbor. Along the shoreline, remnants of colonial-era buildings and weathered docks lean toward the water, subtle reminders of a time when this port held strategic importance for global maritime routes. Yet the dominant presence here is not architecture, but space water stretching wide, framed by land that feels deliberately placed. One of the most striking features of Diego Suarez is Sugarloaf Mountain, a small volcanic cone rising abruptly from the bay. Its simple, symmetrical form stands in sharp contrast to the fluidity of the surrounding water, acting as a natural landmark visible from many angles. The mountain anchors the landscape visually, reinforcing the volcanic origins that shaped the region. Beyond it, cliffs and peninsulas curve outward, forming secluded coves and beaches that appear suddenly along the coast. Just outside the city lies Sakalava Bay, a long sweep of sand and shallow water opening toward the Emerald Sea. Here, the color of the ocean becomes almost unreal, shifting constantly with light and wind. Coral reefs protect the shoreline, calming the waves and creating ideal conditions for exploration across water rather than land. The horizon feels open and expansive, emphasizing Diego Suarez's position at the meeting point of island and ocean. Despite its dramatic setting, Diego Suarez moves at an unhurried pace. Markets, small streets, and everyday life unfold without urgency, shaped by the rhythm of tides and daylight rather than clocks. The air carries a mix of salt, wind, and warmth, reinforcing the sense of a coastal world slightly removed from the rest of Madagascar. Diego Suarez is not defined by a single monument or landmark, but by its geography as a whole. It is a place where Madagascar turns outward, where land loosens its grip and gives way to sea. At the island's northern edge, Diego Suarez stands as a threshold between continent and ocean, stillness and movement, arrival and departure. Mazoala National Park stretches across Madagascar's northeastern peninsula as one of the last great expanses of untouched rainforest on the island, a place where land, water, and forest exist in seamless continuity. Remote and difficult to access, Mazoala feels less like a park and more like a self-contained world, shaped by ancient rainfall, shifting tides, and deep biological time. Here, the rainforest does not stop at the shoreline, it spills outward, dissolving into mangroves, beaches, and coral-fringed bays, blurring the boundary between jungle and sea. The terrain of Mazoala is dense and immersive. Steep, mist-covered hills descend toward the coast, cut by countless streams and rivers that flow relentlessly toward the ocean. Rain falls frequently, sometimes softly, sometimes in sudden downpours, feeding a landscape that never truly dries. The forest canopy rises high and thick, filtering sunlight into scattered fragments that drift slowly across leaves and moss-covered trunks. Beneath it, the air is heavy with moisture and scent, damp earth, decaying leaves, and the faint sweetness of flowering trees. What defines Mazoala is its sense of continuity. Unlike fragmented forests elsewhere, this rainforest remains largely unbroken, allowing natural processes to unfold without interruption. Mangroves form intricate root systems along the coast, protecting the shoreline and creating nurseries where land and marine ecosystems intersect. At high tide, seawater moves quietly into the forest's edge. At low tide, roots and mudflats emerge, revealing a constantly shifting interface between environments. This rhythm gives Mazoala a fluid quality, as if the forest itself were breathing with the ocean. The coastline adds another dimension to Mazoala's character. Secluded beaches curve gently between forested headlands, their pale sand meeting turquoise water protected by coral reefs. From the sea, the jungle appears to lean forward, its trees silhouetted against the sky as if drawn toward the water. Kayaks and small boats move quietly through mangrove channels, offering rare passage through a landscape that resists intrusion. Mazoala National Park is not a place of spectacle or convenience. Its power lies in preservation. This is one of Madagascar's final strongholds of primary rainforest, where ecological systems remain intact and interconnected. In Mazoala, the island reveals its most complete expression of wilderness, a place where forest, sea, and time continue their ancient conversation, largely unchanged and profoundly alive. Lake Tritriva rests in the central highlands of Madagascar as one of the island's most enigmatic natural landmarks, a volcanic lake where geology and myth are inseparably intertwined. Formed within the crater of an ancient volcano, The lake lies at an elevation of more than 1,700 meters above sea level, surrounded by steep, rocky walls and dense green slopes. From the first glimpse, Trzewa feels enclosed and introspective, a landscape turned inward rather than outward, as if the earth itself were guarding a secret. The crater walls rise sharply from the water's edge, creating a natural basin that isolates the lake from the surrounding land. There are no visible rivers feeding into Trzewa, no obvious outlet carrying water away. Its surface is dark, smooth, and reflective, absorbing light rather than scattering it. On calm days, the lake mirrors the sky and cliffs so perfectly that depth becomes difficult to judge, enhancing the sense of mystery. What sets Lake Trzewa apart from other volcanic lakes is its strange and counterintuitive behavior. While nearby rivers and reservoirs swell during the rainy season, Trzewa's water level mysteriously drops. During the dry months, when surrounding landscapes begin to wither, the lake rises again. This reversed rhythm defies ordinary hydrological logic and suggests a complex underground system of volcanic fissures and channels, quietly regulating the lake from beneath. The atmosphere around the lake is marked by stillness. Sound softens as it approaches the shore, and even wind seems restrained by the crater's shape. Near the water stand two intertwined trees, their trunks and branches locked together, forming a natural symbol that has become central to local legend. According to Malagasy tradition, the lake is bound to a tragic love story, and Trzewa is often regarded as a sacred place. Visitors instinctively lower their voices here, not out of fear, but reverence. The path descending toward the lake reinforces this transition. Each step downward feels like a movement away from the everyday world and into a space shaped by memory and silence. There are no sweeping vistas or dramatic cliffs meant to impress. Instead, Trzewa draws attention inward, encouraging reflection rather than spectacle. Lake Trzewa is not defined by motion or abundance. Its power lies in restraint. Suspended between volcanic origin and enduring myth, it stands as one of Madagascar's most contemplative landscapes, a place where the earth holds its breath and where time feels unusually still. Madagascar is not a place that reveals itself all at once. It is a land shaped by separation, patience, and deep time, where every landscape feels like the result of a different conversation between the earth and evolution. From stone forests sharp as blades to rainforests that breathe with mist and sound, from volcanic lakes sealed in silence to islands dissolving gently into the sea, Madagascar unfolds as a world that followed its own path and never looked back. What makes this island extraordinary is not only its beauty, but its continuity. Many of its landscapes remain intact, governed more by natural rhythm than by human design. Here, geology dictates form, climate sets the pace, and life adapts in ways that feel both ancient and imaginative. Each destination is not an isolated attraction, but part of a larger system, connected by water, wind, and time. To explore Madagascar is to slow down and observe, rather than conquer. The island does not reward haste. It invites stillness, attention, and respect. In its forests, mountains, deserts, and shores, the planet speaks clearly, not in spectacle, but in presence. Even after crossing rivers, climbing stone cathedrals, and standing at the edge of vast bays, the feeling remains that this journey has only scratched the surface. Madagascar is not defined by what has been seen, but by what continues to endure. It stands as a reminder that there are still places on Earth where nature writes the story, and where discovery is not about reaching the end, but about learning how to listen. Sound in Masoala is layered and ever-present. Rain taps against leaves, rivers murmur through hidden channels, and the forest hums with distant calls that rise and fade without warning. Silence rarely exists here. Instead, there is a continuous low pulse that reinforces the feeling of life unfolding at every level. Even when movement is minimal, the environment feels alert and aware. Even today, the true depth of Lake Tritriva remains uncertain, reinforcing the impression that much of its story lies hidden below the surface. The water seems to follow its own rules, independent of weather and season.